questions, or at least some rest, some tea break. Very long day already for all of us. Okay. So basically, I was involved with this ASEAN Puppet Exchange Project. ASEAN is the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. It's the 10 countries of Southeast Asia, except for Timor-Leste. So that is Brunei, Cambodia, Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, Laos, Myanmar, Indonesia, I think, yeah, all 10. Any I missed out? Yeah. Laos or yeah. So we brought together for 2014 to 2017, we made 10 shows in all the countries of Southeast Asia. These are all the artists from all of Southeast Asia. So many of the puppeteers, many of them is shadow puppet, but there is also Vietnam water puppet. There is also a marionette puppet from Myanmar. There are other hand puppets as well. Thailand also does hand puppets. Singapore also has some marionette, string marionette. Philippines, they like to do ventriloquist. So they don't talk, but this person talks, yeah. So they do that also. So our job was to bring the puppets and the people and the puppeteers and the musicians together, all right, as a way to understand one another as ASEAN. Okay, so why do we do this? I mean, I will explain to you later. And for I do not have much examples with me, but I think my partner and my wife, Jodie, she will join you for some of the tours. So you will get to work with her as well, and you will see how puppet works for community building. Okay. As you can see, the group we have grown, and this was in Hanoi. This was at the Vietnam National Puppet Theatre in Hanoi. So we actually brought shadow puppets to the water puppets together. So we had water puppets, and then we had shadows behind, and we had shadows in front, and rod puppet, hand puppets together in the water. So yeah, we had this person in Cambodia, but he's wearing the same water fishing, yeah, the fishing equipment to play shadow puppet in the water as well. So this was about experimenting. This was about learning from each other. This was about learning a little bit of each other's language, culture, religion, because puppetry is has a lot of history, has a lot of heritage, and in some cases also has a lot of religion and belief in it. So we were learning about each other's belief, but we were not hurting each other. We hurt the puppet, and then somebody said, "No, you cannot do this to my puppet." And then, "Oh, what? No, this puppet, you cannot stab like that, or you cannot put underneath like that. No, please." So we learn how to befriend with our mistakes, with the puppet in front of us. So it's like all of us adult children who will learn to play with each other's toys. That was the thing. And because puppetry is a physical thing, and it's a very small theater, we learn to be close to one another. We learn to share the space. It's not like the film whereby, okay, an action and cut, and then my turn, and action and cut, and you're there, I'm here, and we're just acting far away. Or the theater, we act far away. But in puppet, we have to act together, close, hold the puppet together, move together. If we do not cooperate, the puppet is dead. Yeah, so we must work together, breathe together, move together. So this was the project that we proposed, and in the end we had 120 puppeteers from 10 countries work together to create 4 years of shows in all of Southeast Asia. So that's my experience, and so I want to share with you a little bit about what I learned about how puppetry is good for cooperation and good for community development. Yes. So after I did just a small little story, but after I did my work with ASEAN, after I ran around, I did this for 4 years, and I did I wrote a little bit about what we do. So I think one of them is in this article as well. We went around and we did stuff for education, we did stuff for disaster relief. I was invited to Russia. I was invited to Moscow for their puppet festival. They liked what I did, so they wanted to meet me and all that. And then I looked at how they did puppetry at the backstage. I looked at how they worked. And I looked at them and I was like, oh my goodness, how is puppetry so serious? Why is it so, why do we have 200 puppet directors of Russia meeting together to discuss policy of puppetry of all of Russia? Why do you have actors who are puppeteer for 60 years and still continue? Why do you have so many managers and people running everywhere to create a good show? And as I sat there and I asked myself, you know, what I did in ASEAN, and I look at what they are doing there, and I think about it, and it came together that at the end of the day, storytelling is very, very serious business. Storytelling is our responsibility. I realized that at the end of the day, whether I am an artist, an actor, a producer, or whether I am a puppeteer, we do this because we feel that teaching is one of the most important skill or one of the most important occupation that we want for ourselves and we want for others. So, and puppetry becomes a very good tool for this because puppetry is play. At the end of the day, anything can be a puppet. Any object, theater you can use. You can even puppeteer another puppeteer and you can move your right. Yeah, you can play around with each other. You can play with size, you can play with space, you can be you can be on Mars, you can be in outer space, you can be underwater, you can be anywhere as long as you have the imagination. As long as you have a good storyteller and an audience, you can tell whatever story that you want, and you can tell whatever story the child needs to hear. And that is why that is why puppetry allows play in this level. And lastly, what I learned from a conference, some conferences about professional puppetry, is that we learned that at the end of the day, the act of making something is one of the most important skills, which is the reason why I think some of the questions just now was pretty important. It's very important to be the performer. When you are just playing music or playing a soundtrack and just following the soundtrack, that is not professional. That is not proper puppetry. That is not proper art. It is more professional to take paper and tell a story and sing well than to take a wonderful mechanical robot puppet and turn on the button and let the robot do the job. That is not art. Making something into something else, that is art. And when a human being takes the objects around him and makes it into something else, then we are a human being, then we are a creator, then we are inventive, then we have what we call the word is dignity. Yeah? Then we are not just following what other people tell us to do, but we create something from ourselves, from our minds, from our hearts, from our role as a teacher. We've created something, and that's the dignity of telling a story with puppets or making a puppet. You know, you don't have to be the puppet maker and the puppeteer and the singer and the musician. You don't have to be that, but you have to be part of that process of creating that thing that acts as a storyteller. Okay. So, how I just want to share how it applies, I don't know about your projects here in Vietnam. Okay, so forgive me if they don't really apply. But in my case, I had to think about how do I bring people from so many different countries and cultures together to come under one region, under one ASEAN, to work together as one. And at the end of the day, what I realized was that when we, from all these different countries, whether we are from Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, when we work together to tell a story together, when we are trying to solve problems together. When we are there on the stage and you have a shadow puppet and I have a water puppet, how do we tell the same story? How do we tell the story together? We are working together to solve a problem. And together we create a sense of collective, what I call collective dignity. Yeah? We are proud of what we do because we solved it. We did it together. We invented this by ourselves with our own two hands, our own 2 feet, our own ideas, what we have. We didn't call someone, okay, can you buy me this, or what. We worked with what we had and we created something. So that creates a collective dignity. And at the end of the day, whether we argued, whether we cried, whether we fought over something, at the end of the day, when the show is finished, we are happy that we did it. And that's the collective dignity. So for teachers, for you guys, whoever is working with a classroom situation or a tense situation between students who disagree with each other, or between teachers or colleagues that disagree with each other, I mean, I encourage you to consider bringing different ideas together and trying to help them solve the problem with the puppets or with a show or with a script and then performing it out and then trying to solve those problems. Give them the time and the space to work it out, and if you leave them alone long enough, they might actually come up with something and that speaks for all of them, that they can be proud of as a group. So anyways, back to the ASEAN Puppet Exchange Project. Usually we will work with 4 to 10 countries at one time. We would bring in all the different, we would have a whole variety of shadow puppets, water puppets, rod puppets, hand puppets. We would have different knowledge of what wood to use, what skin to use, what color to use, what music to use, what language to use. And we will also have a lot of different goals, because for some people the goal is to teach about art. For some others the goal is to teach children about how to be a good person. For some people it's about teaching language. And for some people it's about teaching about God, or it's teaching about faith or your beliefs as well. And sometimes it's about teaching history. So many of these puppeteers come with for a different reason. And so my job was to try to put all of this together and try to create something that worked. And we usually only had 5 to 10 days. So I had a very short time. Usually the more countries, the more days. Yeah, and yeah, it was a very intense process. But if it's stretched out for too long, then the first few days, it's okay, we have time, don't worry, 2 more weeks, no problem. And then last 5 days, oh no, we didn't do anything. All right, so I would usually keep the process pretty tight, pretty short, and some break in between. But yeah, not too long, not too long. And then, of course, I would also make sure that it was a process and not just about the show. So I would try to make sure that there were both learning and teaching opportunities for the artists. So the artists could also teach about what they did, and they could also get a chance. Everyone has a chance to learn and teach about what they do. So my job was to help them understand each other as different countries as well, and different religions and different beliefs and different needs. And of course, finally, when you have an audience, then people work for a better reason. They work for a better cause, and of course, they have a very good goal at the end of the day. If there was no audience, I think they wouldn't work so hard. I think they wouldn't have that stress, or wouldn't have that worry about how does it look? Does it look good? Will a 10-year-old child understand the show, or will a 70-year-old man understand the show? With an audience in front of you, everyone is trying their best to do something for their sake. And the most important thing is that when it's for someone else's sake, all our internal difficulties and problems we will put one side, because the audience is more important than us. So that was one very, very important thing. And I've used that in schools as well. When I work with children in Singapore, it was the same thing. They could be like 10 years old and, no, he kicked me, I do. And then when the audience is there, okay, let's do the show. You know, with the audience out there, they will put all these things aside, because the audience does come first. Alright. And so we use puppetry because, yes, it will hold, like I said just now, because it will hold so many different ideas. You can do so many different things. So even though we had Superman and a city and the Monkey King and a British colonial and a Cambodian god in the same scene. And a dragon, there was a dragon here as well, and there was a sea god as well. There were many different scenes. So basically, and a thunder god, yes, we had a thunder god as well. So you can see that anything goes, because the narrative is about how we tell the story and how we create something from it. And the reason why this is important is because everyone's point of view is accepted. When you have this space, then you are able to accept that, okay, yes, he has an idea of bringing in a model, a supermodel into the scene where the Monkey King is trying to rescue a caterpillar. Okay, let's do it. Yeah, we can, because we can. Alright? Because this is play. Because this is not serious theater drama with $60 million. No, it's a puppet show, guys. Let's have a fun. Yeah? For me, my job, and I'm guessing that many of your jobs, will be also to mediate between people's differences as well as their indifferences. When they're like, no, I don't, no, it's okay, you do. Yeah, you have to find a way to bring them into the show. Try to find a way to, maybe they're embarrassed, maybe they're shy, maybe they don't believe in the story, maybe they don't like what's happening. And your role isn't to be the artist in the show. Your role becomes thinking about how can you help that person be in the show. What element of the show can he be a part of? Or what does he want to do? Can he do one small 2-minute segment where he comes up and he does his monologue, he does his piece, and everyone else looks around? You know, what can you do to help them bring their differences together, or help bring people who are very indifferent to what's going on? How do you bring them in? And that's your role. And that's the work that we have to do as teachers or as educators or as facilitators. Another thing you of course have to maintain is that you have a goal over there, and a sponsor tells you he wants to see this, and somehow you've got to make it work together as well. And that's also your role. I mean, we don't have time to talk about how we do this, but I'll be happy to have more dialogue with you about my experiences, and you can share with me your experiences as well, and hopefully we can help each other out. Yeah. And one of the last things I want to talk about is the job of the storyteller. And one of the most important things for a storyteller is to tell a story that people want to listen, as well as to tell a story that people need to listen as well. Okay, we can't just, if people want chocolate, you just can't just keep giving chocolate, right? I mean, but at the same time, if you also cannot give no chocolate, no sugar, no nothing, just oats and medicine and vegetables only. You want to entertain people and educate people at the same time. But the most important thing is that the role that I play, and the role that many producers or many managers or many teachers play, is that it's a story that the children need to hear as well. So our job is to create that show. And for those who are producers like Nemo and whoever, that's when you have more support as well, because you can tell people why this story is so important, that it has to be done. And then that's where the artists will come in, that's where the support will come in, that's where the venue will come in. So you have to find that story that's worth telling. Okay? Another thing that I did during the ASEAN Puppet Exchange is that you don't only work with the story that's on stage, but you also, just the variety of people on stage tells you that something else, tells you that something magical is happening. Alright, and that's a wonderful thing about puppetry. That on one hand, we are looking at the puppets, what a wonderful show, but on the other hand, we're also noticing, hey, wait a minute, those guys are not from different countries, but they're working together to tell the story. Or, hey, wait a minute, I thought I'm in Vietnam, how come I see a Cambodian in the water playing with water puppets? So at the back of their mind, subconsciously, they're also realizing that some other magical things are happening. Alright? So this is where we suspend our disbelief, but at the same time, we also realize something else. So there are two layers of meaning, both the story as well as outside of the story. Okay. In the process that we do, so in any case, so while I'm doing this, so first I start with thinking about the story, then I think about the frame, the story itself, as well as the other meanings that we can create. Then after that, together, we create the plot together, all right, the scene, all right, we create it together. And when we create it together, it means that everyone's supportive. They want to make this story happen. They want to make the scene happen, all right. If it's only 2 people who create the whole story, okay, we got the story, and the other 10 people are like, huh, what, you have a story, okay. Then the next 6 days is not nice. Yeah, it's not going to be fun. But when everybody creates the whole plot together, the whole scene together, and then you can be pretty sure that the rehearsal process for the next 5 to 6 days, everyone is more interested. Alright, so when you create story, when you create plot, try to do it together as a team, as a community. Try to tell the story together. After that, yes, you can fix things. After that, yes, you can say, all right, let's try something different. Oh, this dance doesn't seem to work. Okay, this fight scene doesn't seem to work. Or later, hey, excuse me, sorry, the character does not make sense. Can we change? Can we try something else? Later, we can adjust. Okay, but at the beginning, try to let everyone, voice their views. And even if they're not very good, your job as the facilitator is to let everyone be heard, help them feel heard, and then after that you can take some time later to try and fix the things which you don't think would work. That's okay. Or maybe some of the other actors, some of the other community members will solve that problem for you. Or maybe it will work. Maybe it does work. All right. Maybe it does make sense that the Monkey King saves the caterpillar. It's okay. It could work. And of course, our job as a facilitator is to help everyone accept change, to accept that, I have to let go. Help them realize that if they let go, it's easier. If they let go, then other people will listen to them as well. It's a give and take exchange process, and that's our job as educators, as facilitators. And one thing that helps me put it all together as the coordinator of the puppet exchange is that I always try to I'll try to remind everyone, all right, I'll try to help everyone remember what the purpose is, what the goal is. All right, so back to making sure it's a good story, make sure we are doing it for the right reasons, and no matter what fighting, okay. Remember, we're doing this for them. We're doing this for our audience. We're doing this for ASEAN. We're doing this to know each other. All right, so at the end of the day, that's the most important. Okay, so that's how we did that. Yeah, I hope you will follow us. The project's closed for now. We don't know what's next yet, and I'm doing my best to try and develop future projects that will continue what we've done so far. So we'll continue to collaborate with the artists that we've connected with so far. But in the meantime, I'm happy to share whatever we've done with you all. If you still have interest to look at the videos or the work, please feel free to do so. And that's our project. Okay, thank you. Xin cảm ơn.
So I think 3 questions, very short questions. And then we have tea break.
No, okay. No question.
Just for the collaboration of things,
Yes.
things get easier as the time went on, as
No. But that's because we raise the stakes each time. Yeah. I don't think artists want to take it easy. I think after the first one, yes, the first one was definitely difficult, but everyone was also more polite. So we were all politely doing the show, and it was difficult, but as we got to know each other, we also started to say more of what we wanted to do as well. And we also would look at our first performance and go, we could have done better than that. Let's try to make it better. Let's try to make it better. So So, I don't think I want the process to be easy. I think we became closer and as a community, as a group, because we made it so hard, because we raised the stakes, because we weren't happy with just doing a combined shadow play. We wanted to do shadow play in the water, string puppets as well, you know. So we would always go beyond, and then we had the fireworks, the dragons putting out everything, and then the puppeteers coming out, and the shadow puppet balance on the water puppet on the boat, and the dragon, everything. We come up with this because we want to create, and I think we want to earn our dignity. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, we want to know we did the best we could as artists. Yeah. Yeah.
And what were the responses from the audiences to this show?
Oh, they loved it. It was just. I mean, the last one that we did in Vietnam, we covered half of the water puppet stage, and the kids and everyone, they just all came to the stage. We were worried the stage was going to break because everyone was like, "Ah!" They wanted to play, they wanted to see, and the artists, they were so happy that how much the children and the families loved what we did. So I couldn't stop the avalanche of people coming on the stage, and everyone was just like hoping that the stage won't break. But yeah, I mean, the one we did in Malaysia as well, everyone loved it. We had a lot of criticism from the artists. We had a lot of criticism from artists. So from professional artists, they will be like, that's not a good puppet play, that's not a good show. But for us, that wasn't the priority. We weren't going for a good show. We were going for a good process. We were aiming for a community. And yes, we told the professional artists, if you want a higher standards professional play, then let us work on it for 2 years, or 10 months, or 5 months. This was a 10-day process. Please try to remember that we were here in the act of community building and understanding. And the show is an additional outcome for you to see. Yeah.
Okay, so last question, maybe from one of the schools.
How would the disability audience? You mentioned that you have the trained experience and to make a show for disability people.
Not within this puppet exchange project, but okay, but yes, I can share something about that. One of the ways that we managed to, one of the ways we kept the work of this community, ASEAN community building important or valuable to the artists was that we would we would invite people like Art came along as well. For example, we would invite artists come over. Those artists who are interested in education or projects for disability or autism, and feel free to come in and do those things. Then we take a few days break, we know each other better, and then the other professionals, they come in, and then we do the puppet exchange project. So we've done it in a way whereby the different goals of the different artists are mediated. Yeah, I hope that answers a bit of the question.
So it means that the disability artists rejoin the activity, or you mean does the disability audience they can join with a professional artist?
Okay, so you're asking about disability audience or artist itself?
Yes.
So far, no. Unfortunately, no. We haven't had a chance. The experience of working with artists with disabilities. I do know that it's possible because there are artists that I know of with disabilities. For example, Cambodia, there's one artist in wheelchairs and stuff. So we do know that there are ways to work together. And like again, puppetry is a place where there's a lot of free play. You're definitely able to work with it. Yeah, we can talk about that later. I can introduce you to him. Yeah, if you like to know.
And last question from one of the schools.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because here when we talk with that is most things we process in practice. But how to apply with the teacher? how to put this in something, the lessons for the children, because the teacher will become the player. So it's how it to transfer for the teacher is to work with the student or the children. That is something the concerns for us, because we study and we learn and we listen to you, and then we want to apply it in the school for the teachers how to use this. But it's sometimes different and difficult also. Would you see something is simple or some things how could we apply it for the teachers to be excited and to see the roles to go, to move and how to transfer it for the children? Because it's some things is in here, most is some things that is in the ways of very...
Yeah. Well, I would say it's definitely applicable. I mean, I use a lot of what I do for the adult artists, just as the adult children like the little children. It's very similar. How to convince the school and how to convince teachers, that's definitely something we have to talk about. Because I need to understand what's the situation in Vietnam as well. But I think in a classroom, how many students in a classroom? Typically?
In our class, it will be 20 over 20, 26.
That's
that in the class.
still doable. I
And
think
then
still
how to apply for the students
For the
also,
students, yeah.
because they can use this, and then
Yeah.
because you say that it's the storytelling,
Yeah.
so they have so many stories. How could it help with you through the puppet? That is
Yes,
also
I believe definitely the teachers need to develop the skills first. So I think firstly the teachers need to experience it themselves, right? So first, what I would say, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, all right? Just throwing out there as a suggestion, which is that first we do something with the teachers first, maybe also 20 teachers. So it's a similar size, a similar dynamic. And we let the teachers experience that first. After that, then the teachers can discuss and think about how to apply it to the students after that. Yeah. And I think, yes, the children have many stories, but so do these artists. All these artists have many stories and many toys to bring out as well. And that's where the ability to facilitate is very important. So the skill is quite high. But I think the advantage that a school or a teacher has is that you have more time with the students. I only had 10 days, for example, to pick one story. Whereas for a teacher, maybe you could aim for a project in June, for example, but start asking the students in January. And slowly carve and create the story, and then slowly bring the outcome together. So I think it is possible if you take that time with the students. And then the mediation, definitely that's a very important skill. I think the other thing is to help the students conquer any fear as well. And I think it's about just learning some of the basic puppetry first. And then go to the next part, and then go to the next part. So I think it's just about planning in advance, that's all. So I think it's possible.
because we need some simple skills
Yes,
to
exactly.
transfer for the
Exactly.
teachers, so
Yeah.
they can use from the beginning something they know,
Yeah.
and then they will transfer the skills.
And I would say that's where shadow puppet is very useful. I've used shadow puppet for children with autism because it's slightly more manageable. It's because the fear of the audience, it's more, you can be conquered by being behind the stage. And maybe some want to be in front and like, oh, the show is beginning, or something like that. So you can manage. So I would say shadow puppet is a good medium. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay?
Yeah.
All right.
So thank you for a very interesting presentation about how we use the podcast to connect people together, working together. And I hope some of the school here you can learn something from our two presentations here. And maybe in the future we can think about putting something into practice in your own ways. Or if possible, we can invite our college again coming to Vietnam to help with facilitating your activities. And now I think we have about 20 minutes for tea break. We have some cookies, some teas, specialties here, and you can network, talk more. You can ask more questions if you want with the artist, with the college, and we'll be back here again for our two last presentation from USA and Thailand. So thank you and see you in 20 minutes.
Good question. Yeah. I never thought about it when I was there. Yeah.